First, I just want to say welcome and thank you to everyone tuning in. My name is Julia Bates, and I will be taking over for Chris for the time being. So, if you're new to the program, this is The Great Divide, where we seek to reconcile some of the greatest rifts of all human history. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, but we do our best to represent both sides equally. This means that each person will attempt to view the argument from the other person's perspective, and hopefully by the end of the discussion, they will find some common ground. Now, we've invited here today Madison Lawler. She is a moderate feminist who just wants more opportunities for women in the world. She believes that there is nothing greater than truth and just wants everyone to own up and acknowledge the roles that they play in society.
Thank you.
We also have Donovan Porter. He is a freelance journalist and an aspiring author who is more or less a staunch advocate for gender relations. He has traveled all around the world for his craft, and he has seen many different things that few have witnessed. Now, we've brought both of our guests here today for one goal, and that is to find as much common ground as possible between men and women. Thank you so much to both of you for being here today. And Donovan, I just want to go ahead and apologize in advance for all of the verbal abuse that will happen here today.
Totally worth it, and I'm a huge fan of the show. I'm a huge fan.
Wow, so that was a great way to start the show, but first we must discuss a very important matter. Now, there are two groups who have inhabited the planet for hundreds of thousands of years and still can't quite seem to understand one another. Donovan, what insight can you bring to the table?
Whew. Well, I don't know how much help I'll actually be. But I'll just say this, okay? From what I've witnessed, nearly every disadvantage one gender has, there's always a clear advantage. Okay, everybody. Okay, now let me explain. So let's just take women for example. Let's just talk about women. We can take the fact that we always hold women at a higher physical standard. Well, right there, that's a clear disadvantage because it causes so many mental and emotional issues. Okay, but yet, these women can also be the most independent people on the face of the earth one day. And then the next day, they want a sugar daddy. And nobody would even bat an eye at them. Nobody. Okay? But the downside is that men, we don't have that luxury of being dependent. We don't. We don't have it at all. I mean, you see men, we're always looked at as carrying the weight of the responsibilities of a relationship, of a household. But we don't get that luxury that women have. Now think about this. If a man decided at a young age he didn't want to get a driver's license, he didn't want to work. He just wanted to be a father to his children and a husband to his wife. While the wife goes out and she does all the heavy lifting and the heavy work and getting her hands dirty, then society would just demonize him as a just a completely weak and pathetic fool.
Yeah, well, we see that a lot these days. Men taking pride in leeching off their wives and girlfriends, while women wanting the money, the power, and the respect that men possess, all the while being able to keep the privileges that they've been afforded by society. Now, my question is, should the parents of these men and women shoulder any blame for the way that they turned out?
Oh, definitely, definitely, definitely. So one thing I find very frustrating is that some women baby their sons all the way until adulthood. And then guess what? When it's time for them to get a wife, they expect the same exact treatment from their wife. The exact same thing they got. But they don't realize the reason these men were likely raised this way is because it was trying to foster that unconditional love that they never got from their father. Maybe because he was mistreating them or they left their mother at an early age. Okay, so now that you have this, you're gonna have the mother. She's gonna cling on her son, and now that starts the cycle. So she clings on to her son. All right, and now the son becomes very selfish and high in maintenance. Then guess what? His spouse ends up resenting both the man and the mother. And in turn, now that frustration now it transfers over to her son, and it's obviously not the child's fault. Okay, the child didn't do anything wrong. All right, but the mother sees the aspects of the man, and she sees so much contempt for it, and she resigns herself to keeping him from following the path that the father took. Okay, well, now you're trying to take them off of that. Guess what? This now causes the son to then start causing a little bit of resentment towards the mother. Okay, and then the mother now is going to shower her son with affection, and guess what? We just repeated the whole cycle all over again. We just started all over again.
And so at the other end of the spectrum, the weak and the pathetic men are the bullies and the pseudo alphas. Now, it seems that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that these two groups have quite a bit of tension amongst each other. It seems that they even disdain one another. Now, do either have any merit?
So to answer that question, I'm just going to have to define a major aspect of weakness that a lot of guys have. A lot of guys, more so than not. It's a lack of self-respect. So for all the men out there that's chasing women and willing to do anything for a chance, congratulations, you're weak. Unfortunately, you got some men on the other side of the spectrum who label other guys as weak and even betas. And those guys, I have no problem telling it right now, are complete hypocrites. Okay? Because they verbally assault the man on one side. Okay? They verbally destroy a man for showing just all the respect for a woman or even the slightest bit of emotion. But yet, those are the same guys who would never want their daughter to date anyone like them. You know why? Because deep down, they prefer their daughters to be involved with someone who's going to worship the ground they work on and treat them with such respect, treat them like queens and princesses. That is exactly who they want their daughters to be with. That's exactly who they want their daughters to be with. And if it's a chance between a weak-kneed man, that can be built up for their daughter, or an alpha male that has to be broken down, then they'll go with the beta. They'll just go with the beta.
So it sounds like you're saying alpha isn't always the way to go. Or am I misreading the conversation?
No, you're absolutely right. This whole obsession guys have about becoming an alpha male is just so ridiculous. I mean, mainly because, okay, I gotta put this. Mainly because that train of thought, it only works in the wild. That's the only place it's gonna fit. Okay? Remember what they say about men, men are cavemen and men are... That's where that mentality belongs, in the wild. And we as men, we need to learn how to move past that. So instead of worrying about how to show how dominant we are, and just, I'm the man, and look how strong I am and all that. Instead of us worrying about that, why won't we just worry about being a better version of ourselves? Being better than we were yesterday? Because you know what a real alpha does? They're out there making money off of the weak-minded guys out there that have that mentality. Okay? It's just like a bird teaching a fish how to fly. What are you left with, really? All you're left with really is a flying fish, which is pretty majestic, by the way. I just had to say that because I saw a picture of it the other day on Google when I was looking at screensavers for my... Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what I was trying to say is I think that if someone has to be taught how to be an alpha, then you never will be an alpha. Okay, the most you can be is something that resembles an alpha. And the sad part is that you can be an alpha and spend the rest of your life in prison, or you can die on the street corners penniless. Okay? Whereas you see the beta, they're the ones out driving the foreign cars and they got the supermodel right by their side. You see, that sort of architectural mentality is for those who don't actually understand how the world works. But the truth is that anyone, alpha, beta, whatever, can have self-confidence and have self-respect. Okay? And if you have those two key elements, then you're officially winning at life. And that is the true alpha.
And does this train of thought apply to the opposite sex?
I'll put it to you like this. Ooh, I'm scared to say this, but I'll put it to you like this. For all those women out there who brag about the fact that, they have their own car, their own place, their own money, congratulations. Guess what? You've officially met the minimum requirements of being an adult. Now, to be fair, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being strong and independent, okay? There's no problem with that. Just as long as you're being strong and independent all alone, okay? That's because male and female isn't the same as being a man and a woman. The first set deals with the anatomy, while the second set deals with the mentality. Okay? And just so you know, guys don't like arguing with other guys. They either walk away or someone gets punched in the face. Now, if you're an alpha female that acts masculine, chances are guys are just going to walk away. Okay? And if you constantly keep arguing until one day he doesn't come back, and the same holds true for the fellas. If you're submissive to the sort of behavior from a woman, then you're officially a placeholder until someone else better.
So is equality an illusion?
I wouldn't say it's an illusion. I would not say that. I'll just say, when a lot of people talk about gender equality, okay, that's all we hear in society, gender equality. The picture that's portrayed is one of the perfect circle cut in half. Okay, the problem is that nature almost never works like this. Only people do. And that's probably why men and women have testosterone and estrogen in our bodies. All right? With that being the case, the image they should have in their minds as far as equality is the same as the yin and yang balance. Men and women weren't meant to be equal in all things. They were meant to complement one another. So ladies, if you have a guy that complains about not feeling like a man, let him know he's not sounding like one either. Okay, you may not need him to open you a jar. Okay, you may not need for him to open a tough door. Okay, you may not need him to do any of that stuff. Okay? I'm not saying you need a man for that, but you need him to pick up the groceries or dry clean. But whatever the case is, he should be ready, willing and able to support you however you need, and you should be doing the same. You should be doing the exact same. If something happens and he's unable to work through no fault of his own, then what? You're the one that needs to come home and get the paychecks. You're the one that's got to be the breadwinner. You're the one that's got to be in charge. And that also means you shouldn't think twice about taking care of the kids. You shouldn't be thinking like, oh, it's my turn now. Oh, is this all I do? No, that shouldn't be your thought at all. Okay? As if you both have any. But it has nothing to do with gender. Okay? The whole thing, it's nothing to do with gender. It's all about respect. All about respect.